Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today we are going to be reviewing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20-19 loss in Thursday Night Football versus the Chicago Bears. Now, before I talk about the reasons as to why the Buccaneers lost this game and the other bad stuff, let's talk about the good. The first player that I want to mention is Carlton Davis, and really I want to change some of the views that some people have from this game, and I think that overall, this defense played a pretty decent game overall, and I will talk about the stats here in a little bit, but Carlton Davis did finish this game with 7 tackles, 2 pass deflections, and an interception. Allen Robinson had 16 targets in this game, and he finished the game with 10 receptions, 90 yards. He was basically the only offensive weapon that they had, and considering how many times they threw to him, I thought that Carlton Davis did a pretty decent job overall. Allen Robinson is one of the more underrated wide receivers in the NFL. Again, Carlton Davis, he got 2 pass deflections, he got an interception, and I thought he did a pretty alright job. The next player worth mentioning is going to be Ryan Succop, who's basically the team MVP, or the player MVP for this team in this game. He finished 4 of 4 for field goals, 1 for 1 for his extra point. He rebounded from his miss versus the Chargers, and I thought Ryan Succop overall did a pretty decent job. Next player worth mentioning is going to be the rookie Tyler Johnson, who the Buccaneers took in the 5th round of the most recent NFL draft. He finished this game with 6 targets, 4 catches, and 61 yards. Good first kind of actual game for the rookie wide receiver. Overall, I thought he did a pretty good job with what was a depleted wide receiver core for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, and I thought he made some pretty good plays when he needed to. Also, shout out to Antoine Winfield Jr., who finished this game with 1 pass deflection. He also had 5 tackles in his own right. He just continues to make some plays and overall be around the football when he needs to be, and I think he's progressing in what has been so far a pretty decent rookie season. I still think he's in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Next player I want to mention is going to be Mike Evans, who finished this game with 5 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown. Again, the touchdowns have been phenomenal for Mike Evans, 6 touchdowns through 5 games, and he got a little bit of yardage there today as well while he was battling with, I believe, an ankle injury. So thank goodness for Mike Evans being able to tough out that injury and come in and play through the entire game. Hopefully he can take these next 10 days before the Packers game and get healed up and get ready to go for that. Next player I want to mention is going to be Will Golston, who finished this game with 2 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. He continues to be one of the bigger reasons as to why the Buccaneers' run defense is so good. Again, the Chicago Bears were not able to do anything in terms of rushing offense this game. They only had 35 total rushing yards, and a big part of that was Will Golston. So, shout out to him. He is having a very underrated season, in my opinion. I think so far he's done a pretty good job of helping stop the run, and overall I was impressed with what he was able to do. Next player worth mentioning is going to be Ronald Jones, who finished this game with 17 carries, 106 yards. He also had 3 catches on 5 targets for 19 yards. It's his 3rd ever 100-yard rushing game in his NFL career. Now he has had 2 100-yard rushing games back to back. I really wish they would have given him the ball more, as I believe Vaughn had sustained some type of injury, and Ronald Jones was basically the only healthy back. Leonard Fournette was technically active for this game, but he was in no way, shape, or form ready to compete in this football game. So it was pretty much just Ronald Jones. Thankfully, he finished the game unharmed, so now all the Bucs running backs can take the next 10 days to get healthy and get fully set up and ready to go for that game versus the Packers. Next player I want to mention is going to be Vita Vea, who again had a pretty decent overall game. I am going to have an update on his injury here very, very soon, but he finished the game with 3 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. Him, William Golston, and Ndamukong Suh are still phenomenal in terms of run defense. Again, only 35 rushing yards for the Bears today, and Vita Vea is a big reason as to that. He rushes with a lot of power. He got held a lot in this game, and we will mention that here in a little bit, but Vita Vea continues to do Vita Vea things, and it's awesome. And again, his injury did look pretty darn serious. I don't know if, what the the gravity of the injury is, but once news does come out about that, I will have a video out here. It probably will be coming out tonight, that video, talking about the update on the injury, so stay tuned for that. Next thing I do want to mention is Vita Vea's sack celebration. He was mowing a lawn as a sack celebration. He started up the lawnmower. He started mowing the lawn. It was hilarious. I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was awesome. So shout out to the Vita Vea sack celebration. Next player I want to mention is going to be Jason Pierre-Paul, who finished this game with 4 tackles and 1 sack, as well as a forced fumble on quarterback Nick Foles. Pierre-Paul continues to be a pretty decent pass rusher. I do want to see him and Shaq Barrett click a little bit more in terms of chemistry and things like that, because that's when I really think that this pass rush is going to start to awaken, essentially. But overall, it was a pretty decent game for Jason Pierre-Paul. I thought he did a pretty good job in, getting pressure, getting a sack on Nick Foles, and forcing a fumble as well. So that's always some good things to have. Second to last player worth mentioning is going to be Lavonte David, who finished this game with 5 total tackles on the game, and he also just overall was around the football when he needed to be. He almost had an interception. It just, basically he had a pass deflection essentially. But overall, Lavonte David is still playing at a very high level. Again, we didn't see a ton of Devin White in this game. I believe Devin White only finished the game with only 3 tackles. So Lavonte David getting 5 wasn't the most on the team, but still 5 tackles is okay, pretty respectable in my opinion. And overall, I thought that Lavonte David did a pretty decent job. Finally, the last player worth mentioning is going to be cornerback Jamel Dean, who honestly had one of the better games in terms of being on defense. He had 3 tackles, but 4 pass deflections against him. And I know he did get beat on that Jimmy Graham touchdown in the end zone, but it was good coverage. Jimmy Graham literally had to make a one-armed catch to beat Jamel Dean on that play. I do not fault him at all for that. And overall, I think that the Bucs defense played pretty good in this game, and if you tell me that's wrong, I can't agree with that. They held the Chicago Bears to 243 yards on offense in this game. That's good defense. 208 passing yards, 35 rushing yards. That's good defense. They had an interception off Nick Foles. The Bucs did lose a fumble later on in the game. I will talk about that. And they even got a couple of sacks as well on Nick Foles. Again, I mentioned it earlier. Pierre-Paul got a sack. Vita Vea got a sack. While it's not phenomenal numbers in terms of sack numbers and turnover numbers and things like that, they held the Bears to 243 yards and 35 rushing yards. 208 passing yards. This was a good defensive effort by this Buccaneers defense. The Bucs just unfortunately came up short in a lot of other categories, which was just not fun to see, and we will be talking about that here in a second. But I did just want to make that point. In my opinion, the Bucs defense did not play bad at all. In fact, they made the Bears punt how many times? 5 times in this game they made the Bears punt. So overall, I do not fault this loss really to the defense that much at all. Now let's start talking about the bad and some of the reasons as to why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost this game. First thing I do want to mention is the Vaughn fumble that was a pass from Tom Brady. Vaughn caught it, took about 3 steps, got hit by a cornerback or a safety, fumbled the ball. The Bears got that fumble, and they had starting field position at the Buccaneers' 27-yard line, which resulted in a touchdown. I don't fault that much in the defense. I really, in fact, don't fault that for the defense, okay? You only had 27 yards to work with to prevent a touchdown or a field goal. They would have at least came away with a field goal from that play and from that drive alone. Vaughn, the fumble sucks, right? The fumble's not good. But it was a guy who hit him and he wasn't looking, and I know some people were talking about defenseless receiver and things like that. It was about as clean of a hit as you can get in 2020, as clean of a big hit as I guess I should say. So overall, Vaughn wasn't looking, he got cracked, he fumbled the ball, and it was just a really unfortunate circumstance that really after that changed the tone of the game and really shifted momentum into the favor of the Chicago Bears for the remainder of the game. Because the Bucs were really coming away, I believe it was 13-0 at that point, something along those lines, or 13-7. Then the fumble happened with Vaughn. The Bears scored a touchdown after that, and the Bears did not give up the lead for the remainder of the game, except until the very end of the game. So overall, that Vaughn fumble really shifted the momentum overall. Next thing worth mentioning is penalties, and hey, bonus point here, penalties again. Guys, can we not get so many penalties, especially the offensive line? We can't be getting this many penalties. And guys, I don't really get mad or worked up. I really don't try to. You guys know me at this point. We've all been talking about the Bucs for a few years now. I don't try and get mad, but I'm annoyed at this. This is annoying, and I think we can all agree. The Bucs finished this game with 11 penalties. That's terrible. And again, another bonus point here. A lot of people were pointing at the refs and saying they're making terrible calls. They're not calling stuff against the Bears. I understand that to a certain degree. I really do. But there's a cutoff point where you just can't keep on blaming the refs. 11 penalties is terrible. It shows an extreme lack of discipline and puts a lot on the coaching. In fact, after this game, Bruce Arians had talked about how the Bucs were basically outplayed and outcoached in this game, and I believe him on that. It was really an undisciplined effort, especially from the offensive line. I'd mentioned a lot that Khalil Mack, again, one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Robert Quinn isn't a slouch either. They also have Bartavius Mingo there, who is good, but the penalties were just terrible. This Bears defense was in the head of this Buccaneers offensive line, and you could just tell. It was terrible to watch, and I'm sure you all remember the drive where the Buccaneers started at the 50-yard line. They ended the drive at back behind the 50-yard line because anytime they would move up, they would just get pushed back more and more by penalties to basically where it resulted in a 1st and 30. It was terrible, and again, I'm not trying to get worked up. I'm not trying to get mad, but this is annoying, and I don't want to see this again for the remainder of the season because we are not going to win football games like this. Good football teams do not win games when you get 11 penalties in a game, basically 7 or 8 penalties on one drive. That is inexcusable. Brady blew up after that drive at the entire offense. I don't blame him for that, and I would not be surprised if Brady took every single player on that offensive line and just put them through a freaking boot camp to not get penalties. It was not fun to watch. It was very annoying, and I'm sure a lot of you guys agree with that. The next thing I want to talk about in terms of the overall bad was the offensive line. I thought that overall, Ali Marpet played a decent game. Ryan Jensen played a decent game, minus a penalty or two that he may have had, but Alex Kappa didn't play very good in my opinion. Tristan Wirfs probably had his worst game so far this season, although I will give him some credit. He was going up against one of the better pass rushers in the NFL, and Donovan Smith regressed yet again after having a good game versus the Chargers. That's not fun. We can't survive with this type of offensive line play. We can't be a good team with this type of offensive line play. I don't know how to fix it, guys. I really don't. And I want your guys' thoughts on this down in the comment section below. I know a lot of people are mad at guys like Donovan Smith and Alex Kappa or whoever. I know a lot of people have been pointing out Donovan Smith. He got beat a lot in this game, and he got penalized a lot in this game. I think he had 3 or 4 penalties by himself. We can't have that. So I don't know what the solution is. If you guys want to make suggestions, let me know down in the comment section below. Maybe Donovan Smith will bounce back, but this was an extremely frustrating game, pretty much just from the entirety of the offensive line, because even if they did play some good stuff, there was still a penalty or 2 that each player had to deal with. Donovan Smith had 3 or 4. I think Ryan Jensen had at least 1. I think Tristan Wirfs had maybe 2 penalties in his own right, but he is a rookie. And just overall, this offensive line was the most frustrating part for this Buccaneers loss in this game. And one of the bigger reasons, I think, as to why they lost this game, because a lot of those penalties that this offensive line was getting were drive killers. It was absolutely terrible to see. The Bucs only punted the ball 3 times, but they had so many drives stall because of just bad penalties where the Bucs had to result in field goals and whatnot. It was not a fun thing to watch. They also messed up in blocking as well. And I'm going to stop ranting and raving about the offensive line. You guys all know it at this point. But overall, this offensive line play needs to improve. I get it. The Bears have one of the better front sevens in football. And 11 penalties is kind of an anomaly. It doesn't happen that often. But this needs to improve ASAP. I cannot say that enough. Second to last thing I want to mention, well, actually, no. Third to last thing I want to mention here is the Vita Vea injury. I talked about this earlier in the video, and I will have an update on it coming up here soon as we get more information about it. But I really hope Vita Vea is okay. He is, in my opinion, one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, and now he has suffered an injury, and I wish him nothing but a speedy recovery. He's got 10 days to recover. If he is even ready to go to the Packers game. But, I did get a couple of texts talking about how this could be a season ender. So we'll see. His ankle got rolled up in a pretty ugly accident there. So, again, once we get an update on that injury, I will definitely let you guys know. But as of right now, I really have no information on it. Second to last thing I want to mention here is potentially Tom Brady forgetting what down it was at the end of the game. Tom Brady, I'm sure you guys all saw it on the television, held up the number 4 there with his hands as if to signal it was 4th down, and then he threw his iPad in anger on the sideline there. I don't know whose fault that was. I don't know if Tom Brady got some wrong information from the coaches, if Tom Brady didn't know what down it was. I guess it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It was just a really disappointing thing to see and really surmised the game as a whole. Where even Tom Brady, made a small error there. And I don't know if it's Tom Brady's fault. I have no idea. He could have been given some bad information, but that was just really frustrating to see at the end of the game. After so much frustration, throughout the game, then you just see Tom Brady hold up the 4 and say it was 4th down. That was really frustrating to see. But, guys, the last thing I do want to mention here is the coaching, okay? Bruce Arians said it best. They were outplayed and outcoached. My friend Logan and me were talking about it here after the game. We definitely feel that, the play calling could have been a lot better. We feel that the play calling was definitely a little bit vanilla, could have been a little bit better in terms of what plays were being called. Like I said earlier, Ronald Jones should have gotten more carries. He probably should have gotten over 20 carries this game because he was being an effective runner. I don't know why they were making Tom Brady throw 40 passes. I get it. That's just kind of Byron Leftwich's offense, Bruce Arians' offense. But I really would have liked to have seen Ronald Jones get more carries and kind of take control of the field, take control of the game, because obviously the offensive line was not pass blocking well, and even whenever it was passing plays, they were getting penalties anyway. So I would have just switched to kind of maybe a run game and really just focused on ground control and things like that. So overall, that was kind of the overall play calling on the offensive side of the football. There was a couple of things that could have been done on the defensive side of the football in terms of adjustments, like the wheel routes. The Bucs were getting beat on those a couple of times earlier on in the game, and then no adjustments were made to kind of correct those problems. It was just small adjustments like that. A lot of adjustments could have been made on both the offensive and defensive side of the football that would have helped the Buccaneers win this game a ton, and they've got to discipline these guys better. Point blank. This offensive line, Harold Godwin, Byron Leftwich, whoever the offensive line coach is, I can't remember his name right now, please forgive me, you have got to discipline these guys better because I'm so sick of seeing penalties from the offensive line. Again, I don't mean to get upset, but it is annoying. 11 penalties in primetime football and Thursday night football in a winnable game against the Bears. This reminded me of the Saints game. We beat ourselves in this game, and it was incredibly frustrating to see. But guys, that's pretty much all I've got for this video. I'm not really going to spend any more time here ranting and raving. I want to know your guys' thoughts on everything about this game down in the comments section below. What do you think about the good points I made from the video? What do you think about the bad points I made from the video? And like I said, I'll have a Vita Vea injury update whenever I get a chance to figure out more information about that. But guys, that's going to be it for this video. A really annoying loss. This was about as annoying as the Saints loss, in my opinion, if not more annoying. And now we have 10 days to get ready for the Packers, which a lot of people have already been writing off. But I feel like with the extra time to prepare, I think this team will be ready, and I think it will be a good game that the Bucs can win. I know it's Aaron Rodgers, but we also have Tom Brady at our disposal, so I think that's a pretty good matchup in my opinion. But guys, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about this entire game down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.